So I had a video planned for today that it's taken a while. That one's probably this Thursday's video instead. So instead, I wanted to take a look at. There's so many Walking Dead games. Wow. Overkill's The Walking Dead. So this is. Oh, I mean, this is of course Overkill's next game. Similar to Raid World War II and Left 4 Dead. Apparently not Payday, which by the same frickin' developers. And I mean, it looks pretty good. I like how it looks. This is a good visual design, and I mean, this is Overkill. The idea that this is what the game after Payday 2 looks like astounds me. I love the direction. Like, I'm hyped. Except, Connor Shaw pointed this out in a live stream. And we do need to talk about this. First of all, $60, $80 for the digital deluxe edition, which contains the soundtrack and art book. We haven't heard the music in this game, or a lot of it. A night raid, we need to see these. What the skin, what the knife, what the flare gun look like, and we won't. There's the Overkill versions. I love this part, though. Our passion is to create kick-ass cooperative action games together with our community. We set our own deadlines, production rules, and design for our pipeline. A truly inspired gameplay machine. We live and die by our gameplay. And you might not be dying from your gameplay, but you sure are killing people with these system requirements. Minimum. Zoom in, minimum. Windows 10, Intel Core i5. No generation. So, but no information as to what generation i5 that is. 8 GB of RAM, minimum. 8 GB of RAM, minimum. GTX 960, 60 GB of available space. 60 to start off with. And that's not even getting into the recommended specs, which ask for an i7, 16 gigs of RAM, and a GTX 1060. 6 gigs or better. And again, 60 gigs of hard drive space. Unreal 4. I mean, Unreal 4 is good at a lot of things, but it can do optimization, and it can do compression very well. That's what makes it such a portable platform for Xbox, for PS4, for Switch, and it's just not there. It's just not here, rather. There is hope for this game, but these system specs are going to hold them back. It's going to isolate their audience. And I don't know. You need to get people interested in The Walking Dead. I mean, the last 4-player co-op game from out of Starbreeze was Raid World War II. That's sad. That's sad. I actually enjoy this game. Does Mother Gunship have system specs yet? You can't even buy this game yet. Yeah, here we go. Complete system specs on Mother Gunship already. Game takes up 5 gigs. Windows 7, Windows 10, i5, 4430 or 6600. 4 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs recommended. GTX 960 recommends a 1060. DirectX version 11. It's all here. This is a game that's not even out yet. Granted, it comes out. It'll be out tomorrow by the time this video goes up. But the system specs are complete. This is also Unreal 4. Granted, it's not as open and high def as a game as Overkill's The Walking Dead, but I mean, there's still a lot happening here, and there's a lot of action on screen all at once. I could speculate that it's a poorly optimized game. Sure. Maybe these are just not complete, and closer to launch these will be updated with accurate numbers. But if these are the rough ballpark estimates, I'm worried. And I don't know. Is this worrying anybody else? I mean, it worries Connor. He expressed during his stream a couple days ago that they're worrying numbers. Let's real quick look at Dead by Daylight. I believe this game is also in the Unreal Engine. Maybe it is. I guess I could just look that one up, couldn't I? Yeah, Unreal 4. Dead by Daylight is also Unreal 4. Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, Intel i3 4170, 8 gigs of RAM, which is also the same as the recommended. GTX 460, 760 recommended. 25 gigs. And this is a game with probably a lot more content. I have no idea how much content Overkill The Walking Dead will have at launch, but there are tons of playable characters for both sides in this game. Yet each one of these videos is a trailer for another character. Killing Floor 2. This is technically Unreal 3. 20 gigs of hard drive space, DirectX 10, GTS 250, GTX 560 for the recommended. These are very reasonable, because Unreal is a very reasonable engine. If you make a game in the Unreal Engine and it looks like this, with these specs, you've just made Crysis. I'm sorry. You've just made Crysis. The game's not well optimized, but you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, you're just not advanced enough. You can't do that. Optimize your frickin' game. That's really the point here. Optimize your frickin' games. Get some of that frustrum occlusion. Frustrum culling. Everything off the screen, unrender it. Unload it. And then as you approach an area where you can start seeing it, load it again. I want to like this game. I do. I like Overkill as a company, and I hope this means a lot of good for the company in the future. I hope Overkill's The Walking Dead does well, so they're not relying on Payday 2 and the rushing Payday 3. That's the last thing I want. I don't want Payday 3 to get rushed, because then you end up with... oh, yay. Why do these pictures not load? Like this one here. The point isn't... I'm not trying to say like Raid World War II is a good game or a bad game. It's definitely got issues. It's very rough around the edges. But the biggest thing that shot this game in the foot is it came out too early and they were rushing to put content into it. And rushing to fix issues. There were tons of ridiculous bugs in Raid World War II when it launched. Enemies, whenever you restart the game, would get stronger and stronger, and with every new raid you played, they'd get tougher and tougher. Until you shut the game off, then they all reset. And Raid World War II, just having a constant look of unfinishedness, has kind of been haunting the game for quite a while. But I don't want Payday 3 to get rushed because Overkill The Walking Dead did poorly. Because when games get rushed, and when Starbreeze rushes games that are not finished yet, you end up, or things that aren't complete. Cards on the table, Raid World War II was shipped in an incomplete state. It's gotten better. I do think you could call it a complete game now, but there's not too terribly much there. And I mean, Raid could recover. Payday kind of had a rocky first year as well. Payday 2. Raid World War II was pushed out the door at a time that Overkill, or Starbreeze really, needed the money. And it had a lot of potential. It still does have a decent amount of potential. But it's... for what it's worth, it's just not here. It seems like development on Raid World War II has kind of come to a stop. June 21st, May 31st. Those are the last two. And with Overkill's The Walking Dead, my fear is that specs like these are going to turn people away from the game, and Starbreeze is being put into a position where they're going to rush development of Payday 3 to recover from the loss of The Walking Dead, or they're just going to keep making Payday 2 content because they've got a player base there. But Payday 2 is eventually going to one day collapse. 2013. This game's existed for 5 years. It's going to be 5 years in the middle of August. And, well, it has gotten a lot of improvements. There's been a lot of, content for the game. You can't just rely on a game that's 5, 6, 7 years old forever. Valve showed us that with Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 contributors get fractions of pennies for their workshop items. And the last major updates to the game, July 11th, although I believe this is an op-ed. July 6th, talk about the Spy Crab. Talk about a tournament. Talk about a tournament. Last update, June 26th. And I added tournament medals and MMR. And then before that, more tournament stuff. And more tournament stuff. And more tournament stuff. June 7th was the previous. That was the previous update. 2 updates in June, and they were minor updates. May 17th, a minor update. Update localization files, update animations. But this is a game in its final stage. Team Fortress 2 is done. It's essentially done. I don't know where you're going to go from here with Team Fortress 2. I did a whole video on this. Payday 2 is very close to that edge. And if you just keep pumping out content on a game, I mean, sure, you can keep it alive as long as there's a player base. But your player base is going to get bored, and they're going to want other content. And that's what Overkill's The Walking Dead, that's what Raid World War II, that's what Payday 3 are. And Starbreeze proved to us that they can and will mess up a game that pretty much had a running start. It's Payday set in World War II. Everyone was sold on that. And it seems so easy. But they somehow have messed it up. And the big thing that messed it up for them was putting the game out too early. They gave them way too tight a deadline. And LGL met it, but at what cost? And I'm afraid that The Walking Dead is going to do the same to Overkill. And if Overkill's The Walking Dead doesn't sell well, then we end up at a point where now we are relying on Payday 3 to pick up the slack, and that pushes Payday 3 up even more, maybe to a 2019 release even. And now they've got a year to finish up a game that they just started pre-production on the year before, otherwise everything goes under. And then Payday 3 comes out and it's Raid World War II all over again. That's my fear. And I recorded 35 minutes of just saying Raid. The Walking Dead system specs make me worried. So this may really cut up. Wow. But I don't know. I'd like to hear what you have to think on this entire matter, because these system specs on The Walking Dead really worry me. And I think we need more information, for sure. More information and this getting filled out will fix that. But if these are just ballpark estimates, these are a terrifying ballpark. And I don't want to play ball here. Show us the computer that can run the game at 720p 30 FPS on its lowest settings. And show us the computer that can run the game at 1080p 30 FPS on its lowest settings. And then show us a computer that runs it at 4K 30 FPS lowest settings. Something like that. Just show us some rough figures and how the game runs on those figures. Don't just give us i5, i7, 816 gigs of RAM, 900 series video card, 1000 series, I guess, video card, or the same video card, and 60 gigs of hard drive space. Jesus. I mean, again, I'm curious as to see what you think of the future. I cannot compare this to GTFO, which is built in Unity, because GTFO doesn't have system specs yet. So I'm purely going off of what we have on Payday, what we have on Raid, and what we have on other Unreal 4 games, one of which is from Starbreeze. They can screw up The Walking Dead. I will concede that they can screw up The Walking Dead. If you would have asked me, will they? A week ago, I would have said no. Overkill's The Walking Dead will be great. And then these specs came out, and they're asking $60 for it, and it's like, okay. I don't know. I'm worried, and there's a lot to be worried about. Already, we didn't need The Walking Dead to worry us. I mean, if it is a flub, Payday 2 still exists, I guess. But I don't want to be playing Payday 2 for the rest of my life, and Overkill doesn't want to be developing Payday 2 for the rest of their life. They've made that clear. But if Overkill's The Walking Dead is a huge screw-up, then they will be developing Payday 2 for the rest of their life, because they will live and die by their gameplay. Brought it back around. Brought it back around. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, I'd recommend subscribing. Patreon and social media links are in the description.